Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We've got a great subject today, defining luxury linens in the stay-at-home era, and we have an expert panel of people to share their perspective on this topic. We have David Ziegler, president of CGG Home Fashions, Katherine Nicholson, who heads up Peacock Alley's marketing and special events, and Buxton Midyette, vice president of marketing and promotions at Supima. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your outlook with us today.
Thanks for having us, Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. And Katherine, I'm going to throw this one to you. What does luxury mean in today's environment?
Well, I was thinking about this, and one of my favorite answers that I ever heard to a question about luxury years ago, in our normal days, was our founder, Mary Ellen, was asked this about what does luxury mean to her. And with all of the beautiful products she's surrounded by, she said time, because I never have enough of it. And I think that's really interesting because I think that is the exact answer that I would give today and that I know that she'll give today. And it's just that we're spending our time a little bit differently. So, but I think that's still the root of it. It's time. So we're all spending more time at home looking, with the people that we love, the pets we love, we're taking time to really look in our homes and maybe evaluate the comfort of our homes. But I think, so for us, that's the root of it, but it does, it reflects on quality, comfort, ease of care. We've certainly learned a lot about how important it is to wash things and keep them clean. And so that was been a really big focus to us. And then, like I said earlier, it boils down to comfort because that's the thing that we have these beautiful products around us, but it's not really luxurious if it doesn't give us that sense of peace and calm and stability that we all need right now. So I think those are the big things that we've really focused on during this time.
And I do want to say I forgot to introduce one of our participants, and that is Katherine's personal assistant, Joey.
Yeah.
Joey will not be taking questions today. He's got a sore throat. But on the subject of questions, there is a little chat function at the bottom of your screens, and feel free to hit us with any questions you have as we're talking. And
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, just to add on to what Katherine's saying, the luxury of time, and I think I see, like both you and David, your brands as well as other brands really kind of appreciating people's time and really trying to help them as customers when they're faced with a virtual blizzard of product, to help them kind of navigate, in a way, narrow the decisions and choices. Because if you go into a store and you see the wall of towels and it's 30 feet high and 100 feet wide, like that so many times can be paralyzing for a consumer. It's just too much and they just kind of shut down. And I think, appreciating people's time and helping to guide them with more, I'm just seeing a lot of, like, and what you're both doing and other brands we work with, much more of a curated offering to really narrow it down to, sateen or percale or easy care, and not like 24 categories where you're like, I don't even know, and really helping to guide them and to make it more of a pleasurable experience, and that you're already thinking about the points of comfort and quality and the aesthetic aspects, that like those boxes have been checked, and you really kind of help to guide them down very specific way, avenues and options that are less confusing. Whereas I think maybe in years past, we would have just said, well, here it is, have at it. Maybe you can find, a sales associate. Good luck. We wish you well.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, you've touched on, Buxton and Katherine touched on some attributes that are important. I mean, have attributes changed in this COVID area? What attributes are most important to consumers who buy luxury linens right now?
Well, if I can join in there on this, I kind of feel that it's really about tactile and visual aspects of a product, because when they get it home, that's what's really important. And what does tactile mean? To me, it's about softness, smooth, silky, or even textured. These are all pertinent features that I think that a customer and a consumer can enjoy. But in all four of those aspects, I think all of them can contribute to the luxury. I mean, in terms of the visual for me is almost from a production standpoint, where I want to see that the sewing is perfect, the cutting is perfect, so that when she or he gets that product in their house and on their bed, they can really appreciate the 13 threads per inch in terms of sewing, 13 stitches per inch, I mean, or mitered corners, or just really nice, clean, exacting product. Because, one of the things that distinguishes luxury, in fact, from the run-of-the-mill, is that it's not run-of-the-mill. It's really different. So much more care goes into it, and I'm sure that both Bella Polk and Peacock Alley and other upscale luxury brands, some of the things that we really look at is the quality, the QA, the consistency of the product. So I think that that's really just so important.
I think you make very good points. You're right. Luxury is most definitely, we're held to a different bar. And when you were talking about the attributes, Jennifer, I think that's interesting, because I was talking about the ease of care, and specifically during this time at home, we've always tried to create products that were easy to care for, but we definitely had we had products that we would still recommend dry cleaning would do well. We made a very big push to make sure dry cleaners are going to make clothes. Like, we made a pointed effort to show our customers how, when I say ease of care, I mean in your washing machine at home. Joey is really not there just for my example, but I'll use the dog as the example. He's sleeping on Peacock Alley right now, and I made a point of, I'm in my daughter's room right now. She was going to let him get on the bed every time. So I made sure I got her the product that we could throw in the washer all the time. And I think this is just, everyone's had their kids home from school, people working from home. And in the beginning, I think a little bit more so than now, we were all very heightened to washing everything, because there was still an unknown about surface holding the virus. So I think all of that really played. People want to have beautiful things in their home, but they want to know that they can take care of it. And that, to us, that attribute was huge.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that's something that because people are at home, they're spending a lot more time there, and it's become, a much higher priority in terms of, because this is where we live our lives now, that everything be right. And I think that there's always been a sense that people wanted something that's better, but it's always been, I think, a challenge to communicate that to the customer, because they'll spend more. They absolutely will spend more for a better product, but many have had been disappointed in the past that what they thought they were buying, luxury, they thought they were buying better, and it just turned to be run of the mill. And so I think that's where I think both your companies do such a good job of connecting around those details and helping to show that they're relevant, that it matters, that the edges are mitered, that it matters. I mean, all those things add up, and you might not notice, the 100 different adjustments that are made to put that product over the top, but collectively you will. You might notice a few, but collectively you just sense, wow, this is so much better. And that, you have it. I think that appreciation grows over time. I know for Supima, it's possible, we're a luxury extra long staple cotton grown in the United States, but you might be able to, through finishing or laundering, achieve the same effects on a product that sits on the shelf. But start washing it and start using it, and that's where that difference,
Absolutely,
starts appearing. And I think that's if that's the kind of opportunity challenge is just in the luxury business, getting the product into the consumer's hands, get it on their bed so they can experience that firsthand.
They should feel that it's actually better after they've washed it, not just once, but 10 times or 20 times, and that there is no pilling, that it still has a sheen, that it still has a drapiness, if that's a word, so that it really just drapes well on the bed and just really feels great and is consistent after 20 or 30 or 40 washings. And, that's not true often with things that are just, less expensive, which is okay, of course. I mean, luxury is more expensive, I think that, it's also about comfort. I mean, it has to feel really great,
Absolutely, especially in this industry, it has to feel good.
So we're kind of talking around communications right now, right? So David, I'm just wondering, and I think you hit a few buzzwords just now, but what kinds of communications or marketing messages are most impactful with your customer segment?
As our business model is changing at light speed because of what's really happening in the world. And so, and I have to admit that as a smaller family-run business, and we've been in business for many years, the one thing that has been consistent and increasingly consistent is, in fact, quality, comfort, lifestyle, that sort of thing. But I would say that really, in addition to that, what is necessary and is going to be more and more so is digitizing and just being able to communicate as we're communicating now, whether it's our upscale linen stores or mom and pop stores or really good fashion forward e-com sites. All of them now need to communicate in a way to their customer that will encourage them to buy the product. And somehow we have to communicate how we help them to communicate to their customers, with the buzzwords, with the features and benefits, with the mission statements, and all of these things which are so important. And frankly, for us, this is a real learning curve because we're going from more brick and mortar or simply to some of the larger upscale e-com sites. We now feel the need to help them and help ourselves and help our customers and ultimately help the final consumer, the Misters and the Mrs. who are buying the product to really understand in advance what they hope to be buying, and then just honestly not to disappoint them when they get the product, which is why it still always goes back to quality control, as well as design. I mean, so for one of the things that we try to do is in our packaging, in fact, is Buxton will be happy to know. I mean, we feature Supima. I mean, we consider it to be a really prime ingredient in the makeup of the product. And we insist, of course, on that the finishing of the fabric, the dyeing of the fabric, the cutting and sewing of the fabric is up to the actual quality of the cotton that's being used. And of course, in addition to Supima, although we have not started in a big way yet, organic is certainly also on our radar. And I'm happy to hear that in the previous seminar, in fact, Buxton, I think I heard that Supima is actually now doing some organic in some fashion, which I think would be great.
That's right.
You take two great features and kind of blend them into an even more enticing product.
Well, and you're kind of hitting on something else I wanted to ask about, which was, where is the luxury consumer in terms of sustainability today? Katherine, I don't know if you want to take that one. How important is that, and how do you address that?
You know, it's, to be really honest, for our specific consumer, it is not currently a priority. It's not something that we're hearing a lot about, but it is something that we care about. So we are taking great efforts to really call out the certifications that we do have, please forgive me, the Oecotex, they got all of this, the Supima, the organic, the certified Egyptian cotton when it really is certified Egyptian cotton, the extra long staple cotton, all those things, because it does matter to us. I think that that's going to shift as our customer base shifts. And right now, I think that sustainability happens often. And I know you wanted to talk a little bit about millennials versus the boomers. I think there's a difference there. But I think it's really important that a brand still, if it's important to us, that we still make sure that we are bringing in the most sustainable fabrics that we can, and textiles and fibers that we can in use in what we're creating. So that's really the honest answer. It's not 100%, big driving force with our customers right now, but we're doing everything we can to learn and grow and develop in that.
I think in a way they almost assume that it is, and will be upset if they find it is not. And so I think that after this COVID-19 and all the concerns has certainly raised concerns around the environment. And so, I mean, from our perspective, Supima, what we've worked hard to do is create content to help explain very complex processes and make them to make it a little easier to understand all the different things that our growers are doing to have the least impact possible on the ground that they till while achieving this incredible, the highest quality possible in terms of the fiber. And it's translating that. And I feel like that's kind of our big challenge from a marketing perspective is, we're industries, the cotton industry, the home, fashion industry. We love our jargon. We love our kind of internal speak in terms of metrics and measurements, but it's taking, the micro layer of the fiber and helping people understand that that's all about, dye retention. It's going to hold color, and bridging that gap to help people understand how these products will help to change their lives in a really positive way, that they'll sleep better, they'll be more comfortable, they'll last longer, and that way they're better for the environment, that they have that longevity. And it's really trying to translate, I can talk about fiber length, I can talk about grams per tex and fiber strength, but those kind of statistics really don't translate for the end consumer. And so how do we bridge that gap to help them understand why these products are better?
I do have to say, just to add on, American made is probably something we hear more were asked for more. And that was, I alluded to Buxton and the folks on the screen that before we got on, about having my first visit to a cotton field here in the US. And it was incredibly eye-opening. We're doing lots of research and how we can still create the same luxury product our customers have come to expect from seed to finished product here in the US. So there's been a lot of research and a lot of work towards that. And that experience, as I said, Buxton sitting here looking at the cotton behind you, was incredibly eye-opening. And so again, we're doing all we can to answer those requests when we get them. But Jennifer, to answer yours.
Yeah, and I do think, just to speak a little further, I think that the web really offers so much broader kind of bandwidth to share that message. And in a way, like, all of a sudden we've gotten into the content generating, business that we're almost like individual, like TV channels that we have to create at a level that we've never had to create. But it's a very exciting opportunity that we can share video, we can extensive copy and explanations, and really tell the stories. We can tell exactly where things come from. We're not just limited to the real estate that's on the outside of the product packaging, or what will fit on a shelf talker at a department store. That I think, it's a real opportunity to romance the product, tell the story, share the narrative, share the origin. And so that, I mean, it's a brand new world, and it is challenging to translate all these things, but we do finally have that opportunity to really give the product, the credit where credit's due, and show and explain how these products are different from all the cares and attentions that we give them.
Without a doubt. It's a benefit to this time, I think, that we're all getting more of a chance to tell our story.
Well, it's interesting that as we look at the difference, if there is a difference between, the millennial consumer and the baby boomer consumer, in a way, I think that we're really all individuals. And I don't know if we can really be categorized so much. I think that if there's a difference between these two groups, it's possible that the millennial has grown up sort of digitized and learning to navigate the shopping, the consumer experience online, whereas the baby boomers have had to adapt and learn, or try to learn. I think that that's a very important, real difference. But I mean, as far as the differences in aesthetics or that sort of a thing, it's probably true that baby boomers may have a more liking for a more formal look in certain bedrooms. But I wonder if more than anything, it's not almost a regional kind of an approach, and do, people in California, and how they might want to make up their beds differ from people in Kansas City or in other Midwest areas or New England. I mean, there certainly are, and of course the Southeast, which is a huge and very important consumer area for luxury brands. They have their aesthetics, and possibly are the more formal, I dare say, within the coast. Katherine, you would probably know this even more than I would, but I kind of get a sense that might be the case, that it's a little bit more formal. But in all cases, it is, for the millennials at least, I think it's about comfort and just the sense of that that they can achieve their aesthetics and get what they want and see it online and then get it.
I think that's an interesting way. I hadn't thought about the millennial and the boomer that in the same way. I think that's a really interesting approach. I think that also to go back to time, I think that's a big thing. You know, the boomer would spend time researching and comparing and studying a product before making a purchase. And the millennial is going to give you one click and a flip on their phone. And I want to know exactly what I'm getting and get it all right here. And then, you know, be done. But I was also reminded by our owner, Jason. He was saying we always talk a lot about when I interview people, I'll ask them, are you a make your bed every day person? And I think that says a lot about a person. We believe that there's more boomers who are the make your bed every day. That makes you feel like you've accomplished something, that gets your life in order. You're ready to conquer the world. Probably more in the boomer category than the millennials. And our job, like we're all saying, is to educate them, give them all the information they need to make these choices so that when they have the money to buy luxury products, we can help them make their bed with, if it's with ease, however it is the way that they're seeking. But we thought a lot about that, the time being a big factor with the two different categories.
Well, and I think what we're kind of dancing around right now is the impact of e-commerce, right, on the luxury linens business. And David, you know, how do you approach communicating that way and selling that way? And you know, it's been part of our lives for a while now, and it just went turbocharged this year. I mean, what have you seen happening, and how do you guys address it?
Well, you know, it's actually interesting. I mean, one of the things which we have done for our customers for a long time is help them with drop shipping. And I think that, quite honestly, e-commerce, whether it's the e-commerce of a small linen store that somehow has created a website that they want to sell on, or enable their customers to see what they're doing, we are always helping them, again, with the drop shipping and with whatever else they need from that point of view. I think that it's very possible that, in a way, what e-commerce has done is, on one hand, there's this, especially if we're not talking about just luxury, but just about home textiles and bedding, there's such a plethora of product out there now. I mean, it's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of choices, whether it's from printed comforters to 1,000 thread count sheets or 200 thread count sheets, and all of this variation that takes place. I think what may be happening, and again, as I've said in the beginning, is we're still learning that and how to participate better in that, is that I think that customers, certainly the customers who are buying luxury products, have learned to become more discerning of seeing what's online and understanding the verbiage and the features and the benefits and maybe some of the zoom shots and that sort of thing, and interpreting where it's available, the dimensions of a product, because I know that our sheets and I know that the Katherine sheets with Peacock alley are also tend to be really luxurious, big dimensions that really speak to luxury and speak to, you know, that aspect of, you know, not the run-of-the-mill product that's often available out there. So I think that the customers have really have started to really learn to use e-commerce. And I would say also that the biggest, perhaps, again, for us at least, is it's created a need to reorganize just our whole philosophy and how we're trying to do business and how we anticipate doing business over the next few years. I do not believe we're going to see, you know, 10 or 20 new department stores or upscale or luxury department stores pop up all of a sudden. I can count on less than one hand the number of luxury department stores right now that carry luxury bedding product. I mean, that's my belief at least. And I think we're going to see how we all really learn to communicate our product to our desired customer base.
And Katherine, can I ask you how, since we're talking about customers, supporting customers, the internet, how is Peacock Alley staying connected with your customers in this whole COVID jumble of a world we live in?
Well, I wanted to comment on something that David said, which it all goes hand in hand, I think. I was reminded of this quote that you've probably all heard: luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. We have been really fortunate to have made in our company a strong push towards e-com over the past couple of years. Again, incredibly, a lot of hard work on everyone's part, a lot of hard work to tighten the cap between our retail stores as well as our e-com. And that, as you know, served us really well at this time. But I think the number one thing, because David, you'd mentioned these department stores, having your own e-com site, what that's allowed us to do is convey our story on our terms to our customer and to customers who were not familiar with Peacock Alley. So we've been spending a lot of time on our site, on digital spend, on social media. And I manage the social media, so I can tell you myself, it's meant, like I think Buxton, you said earlier,
Yes.
We've all been working so much harder since this started, not less. There's been a lot of, Mom, please put your phone down. But our customers, it'll be Sunday morning and I have my cup of coffee and I'm chatting with someone who wants to buy something in a picture I posted. And they want to know, tell me, is it washable? Is it cotton? Is it a cotton linen blend? Where was it made? How does it wash? Does it shrink? And they want to talk to a real live person. So it takes a lot of work. I think that's number one that we can all attest to. In publications too, Jennifer, I know that's true. It takes a lot of work, but in order to be able to convey your own message, we've learned we need to use our digital tools. So e-com's been a huge one. And I think this is where you were going in how that relates to
how you're staying connected with your
right. So one of the things from day one of our time at home to just in general, we've really felt that digital has been a great tool to keep us connected, to let people know when changes were happening, when our retail stores were closing their doors temporarily, but they were still open. You could still do business there, trying to explain that message. So for a long time, our doors were actually, the majority of the time of our retail stores, our doors were closed, but business was open. So it's a really tricky message to say, when you drive up to Peacock Alley, Atlanta, you're not going to see our store manager there, but he is working. And in fact, he met his goals for several months in a row. During COVID, when his doors were closed and he was not over at ADAC. And he did that because we used everything from changing voicemail to forwarding phones to social media, a constant barrage of making sure that message was out there, to our website, to digital spend, to really explain exactly how it was working. We had designers who said, but I'm still working. So they drove up their cars, they popped their trunks, no one was anywhere near each other, and packages went in the back of the trunks, so it's that curbside service has been enormous. And then one of the ways that we've really seen a big impact, part of this whole process, as I'm sure you can all attest to, was keeping our employees employed. It was really important to this company. This is a family-owned and operated company, and that was a priority. And so you have this large retail staff, and the doors are closed. What do we do? How do we keep them employed? And our head of e-com and our head of retail were really clever, and they said, let's put them on our chat. these people know our products better than anyone, and they touch and feel it every day. We've talked a lot about that tactile and how important that is. What's important to retail is that our customers want to come in and they want to hold a pillow and they want to touch the fabric and feel it. So our employees are able to talk to that better than anyone, and those retail employees. So we put them on chat on our e-com site, and it was that's still happening because it's been so well received by our customers. When they're on and they can't decide between something, but they see that Frederick is live on the chat or that Levi's live on the chat and they can answer a question, it's incredible. And then I sometimes get pulled into that. Like this weekend, I didn't answer a text right away, and it was someone who was live on the chat. There was a customer who saw pictures of a bedroom we did in a show house, and they wanted to know a color, a feel of it. They wanted those details. So we just have found that those little ways have made a big difference right now.
Okay.
Yeah, it is amazing. That technology has really allowed us all to connect directly to customers through social media, through Instagram. We always, we're getting lots of questions, lots of comments. People are interested, and a decade ago that relationship just didn't exist, and you didn't have like another area of interaction is customer comments or reviews.
Yes.
And in a way, we're held accountable for our product's performance, and in our area, we get a lot of 4 or 5 star reviews, which is nice. I mean, now I barely buy anything, whether it's sheets or towels or a light bulb, without looking at the reviews. And did people like that light bulb? Was it bright enough? Was it too bright? I mean, I think that seeing that interaction and having our products out there living, and that is the product that's been out there for a couple of years. Oh, I bought this, I love it, I'm buying my 3rd set, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's the kind of, in the past you'd have to pay a marketing firm and do a focus group or something, and still wonder how relevant or credible the feedback was. Whereas now, and look, there's some reviews you read and you're like, is that really real? Did they post that themselves? But for the most part, because it is the internet and it's very democratic, you have so many people posting that there's more, there's a grain of truth to it that you can learn from.
See both the positive and the negative, which is great too. I mean,
right.
I'm sure, David, you'd agree, like there's value to both both positives and the negatives, because it allows us to grow and develop and listen to our customers and hear what it is that's important to them.
Happily, we don't get too many negative reviews, but when we do, I mean, quite honestly, it's like, what? And then, we check it out and see what the problem is. Is it a one-off? Is it that sort of a thing? Or is it, something that's a deeper problem? Happily, they're usually one-offs, and when customers actually call us and do have a problem, it's, even if they didn't buy it directly from us, we'll connect them back to the store or the site that they bought it from, and help them through and to get the satisfaction that they need. And it can be just something as much as they bought, and it can happen, especially if you have, as you do, I know, and we do too, certain programs that have been going on for a long time. We have our Supima 420 sheet, which we've been doing them now for something like 10 years. And before it was Supima, 8 years before that. So we have 18-year-old programs. So if somebody bought something 3 or 4 or 5 years ago and they want to get something to go with it, and the shade doesn't match, well, we have to help them through that sort of a thing. It's not going to match. It's almost impossible, but we help them through it. So yeah, I think that it's important that we do help the customer, and I think that the reviews are important. Positive reviews are very nice, of course, as well, because if you see that there's a lot of positive reviews, it just shows that you're doing something right.
Yeah.
But it's really, honestly, it's the few negative reviews that catch my attention, because I'm mostly about quality control, and for me, and then the people that I deal with here in the office and in the distribution center, it is something that we focus on, and we'll go check and we'll look at the product and everything to make sure it's okay.
Okay.
And I think, what you were saying, Katherine, about talking about your staff and how kind of crucial the staff is to the particular luxury operation. I mean, we definitely see that, and spending as much time with our partner brands on training and sitting down. We've done a lot of times in retail operations. We'll come in before the store open, have donuts and coffee, and spend an hour and a half with the teams and really educating, answering those questions so that they can turn around and help the customer to understand and feel comfortable, and really, with a degree of expertise, respond to questions so that people feel like they've been answered in a very credible matter, not just some kind of flip answer that one might get. So important.
Well, speaking of questions, we've got a couple. Yeah, so I'm going to start with this one, because we've been talking about quality and things that customers value. Supima is a recognizable brand fiber. What other fibers are considered to be luxury by your consumers? Silk, linen? Are there other fibers that communicate luxury to them?
I mean, for us, there have been periods when we've done these beautiful Habitat silk sheets, and they're truly silky, but they're not like that kind of a slinky kind of a product, but they're just beautiful, soft, with this amazing drape. They're very luxurious. They're sort of exclusive because they come from the silkworm, grows on the mulberry tree and all of that. And so I think that those kinds of fibers can be extraordinarily luxurious, as of course can linen. Those are fibers that to me come to mind. And then there are some, funny enough, some really, and I don't have a name for it specifically, but there's sort of in Europe, they sell a cottonized polyester, which is very fine and has a very nice hand and has some really interesting attributes when mixed in with other noble yarns such as cotton and that sort of thing.
I like that, noble yarns. That's a nice way of saying it.
Well, that's what we do, right? I mean, we
yeah, it's true. Oh, absolutely.
Fortunately for us, Katherine, I expect that it's more cotton than any other fiber.
Yes.
And it's more Supima or Egyptian or really other high-end, really long staple compacted yarns. So those are, again, that's really the bones of our product.
Without a doubt.
Are the yarns and the good quality yarns.
And those natural fibers, I think that we spend a lot of time, Buxton, as you said, a lot of time educating our consumers, why this versus this versus this. And I think that's kind of what you're saying, Jennifer, is this question. Mm-hmm. So we spend a lot of time educating, but I think it boils down to the natural fiber, extra long staple cotton. The silk's wonderful. It's microbial. We work that into some blends with our cotton. Same with linen. I think that there's something for everyone. And so we try to always ask first, find out what's important to them. So the very first question we've learned, it's not always percale and sateen, because some of them don't know what that means. It's how do you sleep? Are you a hot sleeper or a cool sleeper? Let's start there. Then you talk about budget, you talk about what's important to them. But I do think when I spend time in our stores, it's really interesting. I could sit there and take notes all day, because you have the consumer that comes in and says, I have to have Egyptian cotton. And we're like, why? Why is that so important? And they really don't know. Someone told them they had to have Egyptian cotton, and I try to, and then we do some education on how much Egyptian cotton out there is not really Egyptian cotton. I tell this story a lot, that my mother was absolutely adamant, for heaven's sake, I think was the quote, she would only sleep on percale. And until it was that I bought her a set of our sateen, I didn't even think of it, but I bought it for her for Christmas because she loved the embroidery on it. And the response was, why do I like those sheets so much better than the other ones I have? Because you like sateen. But it was like I had said a bad word, you know? So a lot of it is asking the right questions. And again, I think that's all a part of really relating to your customer. You need to find out what it is that makes them most comfortable.
Another question we have, with the advent of COVID-19, have you seen customers trading up or trading down? Where's the luxury customer going? I mean, I do remember that after the recession, when we were in the teeth of the recession, that even some luxury brands were creating some, what were for them entry-level price points, because even the better consumers were a little bit stressed out about their spending. What are you seeing happening right now?
David, do you want to answer that first, or?
No, you go ahead and I'll pick it up.
I think it's, we're seeing both. We definitely have had, we've been, excuse me. My assistant over here has something to say. We've seen both online. We try to keep some online exclusives that will maybe increase the breadth of what we offer, so that we have different entry levels, especially as we're trying to reach a wider customer. In our stores, I would say on the whole, we haven't seen much going on the downward trend. I think people are still looking for quality no matter what. So if you loved, for example, our Soprano sheet, we just see people buying more Soprano sheets. In that case, in our stores, those habits of the designers, it really boils down to what their client's looking for. But I think we just tried to increase the breadth of it. I don't really see, fortunately, I do not see the down. How's that?
Okay.
I don't think there's been a real downside, especially lately. I mean, it's funny because there was a fair amount of confusion in February and March for us, but then April, May, June, what we've noticed is that our sales just keep growing and growing and growing. And I haven't noticed any particular, if by you mean downward, if you mean price, I haven't seen any real decrease in price, but just steadiness and just more orders literally now than probably even the first half of the year. I mean, it just keeps growing and growing, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. I mean, if anything, COVID is this great accelerator, and that whatever was kind of happening before it hit is going gangbusters right now. And I do think that we had already kind of touched bottom within home fashion in terms of the race to the basement, and in terms of quality and price. That I think we hit the basement. We might have dug a few sub basements, but that the conversation has really swung back to quality, because the people that got all those great deals and those cheap sheets and those steals of towels then had to use them, and really found them to be substandard, that it wasn't just the same product at a lower price, that indeed it was a lower quality product at a lower price. And so, I mean, we've seen that. I think that was going on before this all hit. And now with people spending their time at home, as we touched upon earlier, I think people are willing to make that investment, and they had learned a few lessons about getting those deals. And I think that they're, as a group, smarter about these purchases, and I think they're finding that product as being, I think we're as an industry doing a better job of marketing to them, and not putting them on this treasure hunt where they have to go on this long journey, but putting it right out there in clear terminology that they understand. And it's a little easier for them, And so we've made it easier to justify spending a little bit more money for that nice set of sheets or towels.
Okay, we got another question, and this kind of pings off what you were talking about, Buxton, about things that are already trending, accelerating. Antimicrobial. I mean, in the volume market, certainly we see a lot of product developers racing to antimicrobial everything they possibly can. Is there any interest in that percolating in the luxury side? Is that an attribute that your customers are asking for?
Not for us. For us, it boils down to, can I wash it? I think I can speak personally that you can tell me all day long how fabulous a fabric is, but I'm still going to wash it. That's going to make me feel better. Putting it in the washing machine, in the dryer, and taking it out, ironing it. I think that we've learned, like, there's some, with all the mask wearing we're doing, we have found that our silk in our masks, that's a naturally antimicrobial. But we have right now, that's not a priority for us, that category.
And David, are you hearing anything from your customers?
No, not at all.
Okay.
They really, I mean, and it is curious. I mean, it is more, I think, as Katherine says, it's more about having a product that you can wash and wash well.
Yes.
And
it holds up, like you said.
Wash often. Certainly we do have, as a kind of accessory utility bedding, which I don't consider luxurious at all. I just consider it as a necessity, a mattress protector and pillow protectors, which can be washed at very, very high temperatures, that have a towel or terry laminate to it so that it feels very nice and it's very absorbent. But I don't consider that luxury, except luxury in the sense that it's something you can sleep on and have under as the sort of the base of your beautiful sheets or your beautiful duvets and that sort of thing, and just wash the heck out of it at catabolic temperatures.
Yes.
You know that you can put it back on and be safe in bed. So from that sort of a thing, I think that's an important aspect. But the additives to the fibers, whether they're really spun into it or whether it's a bath that's given during processing, at some point, especially if it's a bath, I think it will wash out. And I don't know really truly how effective it is and what it does to the hand of the product, which to us is very important.
Or to the health. I like that. It's a good point, David, to the health of the product, right? Like, do we really want to be putting something else on something that was a beautifully natural product? And to that point, when we were talking about washing and the frequency, I do have to say that was a big part of our messaging, that we said, we want to be clear. We've always said we prefer you wash our linens on cool and dry in a low temp, but we changed that during COVID. We said, we're in a period of an exception to the rule. Make it warm, make it, warm. It makes a big difference in actually tackling a virus.
Yeah.
We haven't seen so much interest in, at least in the home fashion area, around antimicrobial. We have seen it going because we have a number of brands that are making Supima masks, and because Supima is a stronger fiber, it's able to kind of withstand the application of those finishes. So we have seen that, but outside of the mask PPE area, I haven't really noted any strong trends.
A funny addition to that and about PPE is, and you're going to laugh because our approach to that has been totally different. We also, in addition to doing quite a bit of product in Europe, notably Portugal and Spain, we do some really high-end product in China. And some of our Chinese manufacturers back in the beginning in February said, we want to send you some masks and things for your safety. And they did, and it was very nice, and just very nice of them. And so I started to take an interest in it. And just a very short story is, because we've been doing linens for children, printed linens, they can also be washed at very high temperatures in certain children's hospitals throughout the country. The sales force that was working and that works on this, I told them, is this something, our masks and other kind of PPE, something that they might be in need of? And it was tremendous. And so all of a sudden we were in the PPE business, but just literally flying in hundreds and thousands of masks of various levels for hospitals and that sort of a thing. So the long story short is now we're doing so much business in PPE. And I think that it's just, which is great, but I think that more than anything, it's just indicative of where we are and why we're all having this conversation, which is what's going on right now for the health of our nation, and where, Katherine, you and I and actually all textile producers of some form or another really need to pay attention. Because while we're talking about luxury, and fortunately for us, we have customers who can afford and are interested in buying our product, there's 30 or 40 million people who probably can't buy anything. So it's interesting to try to bring to the table some sort of a sustainability, so at least there's a value. So somebody buys something, and again, you know, is there a price point that one should offer to that maybe is not, you know, all the way up there, but is something that is still very nice and still feels good and still has some sort of luxury dimension, things, that sort of thing. That is something that we do try to focus on through our other brand, to be able to offer good quality, more affordable quality, because everybody needs to sleep on something, and it shouldn't have to necessarily be a, you know, a 1999 sheet set.
I
So
agree.
we've only got literally a couple of minutes left, but since David, you touched on supply chain, I'm just curious. I know there was a lot of disruption earlier this year. How much is back in? And we're still, you mentioned China, we're still dealing with tariffs, and then there's some new action with the WTO vis-a-vis Europe, right?
Well, this is a big concern, in fact. I mean, the tariffs are it's a discussion for probably a longer segment than we have. But in fact, with what's going on now with the WTO, and with the fact that Europe apparently the EC has won some sort of a judgment against Boeing, and the government, our government, subsidizing Boeing, what it does is it creates and they're going to do something which then our administration or the administration may then incorporate other tariffs, which could certainly affect us because we're doing so much out of Europe. And then out of China, you know, it's just so up and down, and it's so political that yes, we are being affected. And I do some Supima sheets, in fact, out of China that are magnificent. And you know what? There's a tariff on them. So it's already something that, whether it's made in China or it's made in India or it's made in Italy or it's made in Spain or Portugal, the fact is the intrinsic value of the product, the Supima cotton, for example, or the Egyptian cotton or the silk, is clearly a major portion of the value of the product. So if we're sending over, let's say, Supima to whichever country, which then transforms it into these beautiful products, and then on top of it, we are paying duties, and on top of the duties, an additional tariff for something that's intrinsically made in America in the first place. Well, it's sort of an interesting subject, which I'm sure is not for right now. So I'll move on.
Well,
So,
maybe this is a subject for another more involved
Yes, to be
session.
continued.
Exactly.
however, the whole COVID,
Or maybe tariffs will be discontinued. Who knows? Who knows? Well,
really, what has affected Jennifer, really is there's so much disruption, has been so much disruption because of the pandemic, which I think now we're seeing some end to. But, you know, first off, in Portugal, in March and April, many of the mills just had to shut down, and some of them shut down for 6 weeks or more. And they had to start to catch up. But catching up, and they're catching up on orders, some of which because the retailer felt like, okay, we're missing the season. Maybe we no longer need exactly these products at this time, or they want to postpone it. Or something else happened and they actually needed to increase their orders because, in fact, you know what? People were buying more and better product, and the stores were looking for a quick response because, of course, Portugal, Spain, perhaps Italy are quick responders to production because the quantities are usually not so vast. So, and they have a different way of doing things. And of course, the other thing that was affected was, vessels would just skip ports because if they heard that there was any COVID going on, any coronavirus going on in the ports, they said, we're not coming in. So all of a sudden, your orders, which were supposed to leave on Tuesday, got shunted off to the next Tuesday, if you were lucky. So all of these sorts of things kind of happened. So I would say that the mills have made, all of them, all over the world, have made really strong efforts to catch up on production, to help where they could. And they've been, I have to say, really just magnificent. Do you agree?
I do agree. And I know Jennifer needs to close. I just would say we agree. I think this is where that preparedness really comes in, because I do believe there's a possibility that we will see more hiccups as weather changes. We're all the scientists are telling us we should prepare for that. So prepare,
Right.
and keep checking those numbers. And I think there's some things that are unavoidable, but I do agree that these mills have been fabulous. They worked incredibly hard to keep us sourced well.
Okay. Yeah, fortunately, we had a stock position in some things, which was great, because you think, oh, I'm sitting on this stock, what's going to happen? And it starts to blow out because you actually can deliver, which is great. But I think that, Katherine, all of us are going to really have to think about, what are we going to do? I thought I turned my phone off. It's amazing to me that my technology skills are limited. But, basically, what are we going to do for next year, and how do we prepare just in terms of production and what we need to do?
It is a huge question, I think, for everybody in just about every product category,
Yes.
across the line. And I think a great way to end it. And thank you all for sharing your perspectives. And I thought it was really fascinating. And thanks everybody for watching.
Thank you.
This will get posted up on our site for sharing and further review. So thanks everybody.
Great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jennifer. Thanks,
Be
everybody.
well, everyone. Be safe.
Bye.
Great day.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.